A day to remember for the rest of your lives.
There's a great promise for all of you.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame and Extreme Networks present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program. With nearly 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 48 states around this country, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans how to huddle up during a time when we need to be united.
It's time for America to take a real deep dive. Not at no one else, but at yourself individually. If you want to change America, don't brush your teeth with your head down. Look at who you are and be the example. Be the example.
An opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. Single-parent homes, drug-infested neighborhoods, and poverty.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was considered one of the worst in America, and the household I grew up in was one of the worst in that neighborhood. By the time I was 20 years old, I knew at least 30 friends or family members who had lost their lives. Football became like a second parent to me. It taught me the things that my father wasn't there to teach me, and that my mother, as a struggling, single-parent woman, just didn't know to teach me.
But they learn how to live a life of character before pursuing their football careers. Today, you will learn you can do the same that they once did. Making good decisions can lead to a prosperous life both on and off the field. Your game for life has already begun. It's your decision whether or not you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
Every one of you can have a Hall of Fame life, whether or not you play football. You can be as great as you want to be. The Hall of Fame is all about integrity, character, and excellence. You have the opportunity to represent yourself that way. You determine your character.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, The Heart of a Hall of Famer.
The Buccaneers selected Derrick Brooks in the first round of the 1995 draft. Brooks spent his entire career in Tampa Bay, never missing a game in 14 seasons. One of the premier linebackers in the NFL, Brooks was selected to 11 Pro Bowls and named NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 2002. That same season, he helped the Bucs win their first Lombardi Trophy.
Derrick Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
I want to be committed. I want you guys to know when the Bucs drafted me, I gave them my commitment. I gave my all. And part of that commitment as a servant leader stands before you today. And finally, as a servant leader, I want to go about it with a great deal of humility. Because I believe, as my mother taught me, is never in a position to toot your own horn. Because humility is, as I once learned, is not thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking of yourself less. And someone also taught me that most people will forget what you say, some will forget what you do, but no one will ever forget how you made them feel.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gold Jacket.
Welcome everybody here to another installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series. Our mission here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. We're excited to be presented with the opportunity to speak on our Hall of Fame's core values of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. These values that made our Hall of Famers not only great on the field, but better men off the field. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth and Education Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And throughout the program today, you guys are going to get the opportunity to ask our Hall of Famers some questions. Some people had some cards that were passed out to them this morning. If you have those, you'll be able to step up right to the microphone, ask your question, state your name, where you're from, what school you go to, and you'll be able to ask your question. If you do have a program, you think halfway through, hey, I got a great question, just find your way to the back of the room, find one of our Hall of Fame staff members there, and they'll make sure your question is good to go. As you know, here in Ohio, we can't control the weather. So due to some weather conditions, not only here in Ohio, but throughout the country, as you can see, we don't have Derrick Brooks here in front of us. So unfortunately, Derrick could not be here. But with some technology and thanks to our partners at Extreme Networks, we are able to have the chance today to speak to Derrick Brooks, even though he's not here in Canton, Ohio. So we'll go ahead and flip our feed here. All right, Derrick, can you hear me? All right, we're not hearing you. All right. Hold on, let's see if we can get this to work. All right, can we hear you? Can you still hear us? All right, there you are. All right. So Derrick, I want to again thank you for taking time out of your day today to connect in. We're bummed that you can't be here, but we are excited that we get to talk a little bit about how the game of football affected your career. So with just open up, we talked about those values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. Which one of those values kind of stands out the most to you?
I would say for me, it's about integrity is the most value trait that stands out to me, because I do believe that anything you do in life, if you go about it with a great deal of integrity, you'll earn the respect of others, you'll set yourself up for success, and at the same time, it allows God to be a part of what you're doing. So for me, I would say integrity, but a close second is commitment, because I do believe you have to be committed to whatever cause that you decide to be a part of. And through that commitment, you also set yourself up for success because you believe in it.
All right, so we did pick one student out who's going to be able to come out of question. So go ahead and come up here on stage, have a seat, and you'll look right back in that camera back there and ask Mr. Brooks your question. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I like Coach Gruden, I gave him $20 for that time. No, but I think what Coach Gruden did right, that is the fact that I'm willing to listen. I just don't hear, but I listen. And through listening, I go about my actions in a way that I want to create other leaders, not followers. I believe the true characteristic of a leader is creating other leaders by everything that you do, not so much as what you say. So when Coach Gruden became our head coach, I was always listening and I was always asking questions. And at the same time, I went about it with a great deal, as I said, of humility, looking to create other leaders, not followers. So again, being able to listen more than you talk, I believe he said that's why I was probably one of the most coachable players that he's ever been around.
All right, thank you. Obviously, you're a Hall of Famer, a Gold Jacket, so you had a lot of success throughout your career. Is there a play or a moment that stands out above the rest as kind of maybe your favorite play or your favorite moment throughout your career?
Oh man, you want to put me on the hot seat. But, you know, for me, and I do say this, it's not necessarily the plays that I made, because some of my most memorable plays, to be honest with you, happen in practice and not on a game field. But I'm always intrigued to say that the interception that Rondé Barber made in 2002 at Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game that sealed that win and took us on, propelled us to the Super Bowl, was one of my most favorite plays. Was sitting there watching him pick off that pass and seeing how quiet the Philadelphia fans can be. It was like a mouse in that stadium. You can hear a pin drop as Rondé was scoring. And for me, it's one of my favorite plays, because Philadelphia had knocked the Buccaneers out of the playoffs for 3 straight years. So that year that we finally got up in the hump to see my teammate make that play. Personally, I would say my interception in the Super Bowl 1 week later to seal the Super Bowl win against the Raiders I would say it was probably one of the most memorable plays of my career, scoring a game-sealing touchdown in the Super Bowl.
I can tell you, I don't know what that feels like, but I bet that it was one of the coolest moments throughout your career. Now I know you got some prior commitments today, but before we let you go, can you what would one piece of advice be that you want these students to take away today, or one piece of advice you may have learned through your career that you wish you would have learned when you were in high school?
For me, I want to challenge all the students, especially the ones that play sports, to really embody the word student athlete. That your education is a foundation that you stand on, not something that you fall back on. And for me, now being a co-owner with another Hall of Fame, just in the bottom, we own our own charter high school here in Tampa, Florida. And that's what we really try to stress to our students at our school, that the education is that foundation that's going to set you up for life despite what sports you play. So my advice to all you students is believe in yourself, number one. Number two, write down your goals. Write them down, own them, make a contract with yourself about things you want to achieve. And the third thing is pray over those goals. Allow God to be a part of any success and a part of any failure that you may have, because you're going to have to lean on your faith to overcome a lot of obstacles and dealing with a lot of success. And I would say number four is always listen. Be a life learner. We don't know it all, despite the chances that we think we do. But I believe that you get a lot further in life by listening to others more than talking, and setting yourself up to be a life learner.
All right, Mr. Brooks, we're going to let you go and get back to those prior commitments there. But from all of us here at the Hall of Fame, from myself, our youth and education staff, all the way up to our president, David Baker, we want to thank you for being a part of the program today, taking some time out of your day to connect in. So everybody give that round of applause for Hall of Famer Mr. Derrick Brooks.
Thank you, guys. I don't know if you guys have a chance to tour the Hall of Fame, but be inspired by being in that building and interacting with us, because we all share the same story of overcoming something for success. So thank you, students, for coming and allowing me to be a part of your day today.
All right, Mr. Brooks, so thank you for those words of encouragement, and we will talk to you later.
Take care.
All right, we'll see you. All right, now normally that would be the end of the program. We send you guys out to the Hall of Fame to tour and look around. I know some of you might have done that already, but we do have another special guest for you guys today since Derrick could not be here. Our guest was a first-round pick out of Penn State in 1963. Throughout his career, he was a big play linebacker and a member of one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history. This Hall of Famer was a two-time All-Pro, three-time All-NFL teamer, and three-time Pro Bowler, who was also named a member of the NFL All-Decade team of the 1960s. He anchored Lombardi's Packers defense that led them to victories in the first two Super Bowls. So please give a warm welcome to the class of 2013 Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Dave Robinson.
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thank you, Ed. I need your hand up.
I got you. I was a
Oh,
receiver.
man.
I was a receiver. I caught everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, again, we want to thank you for being part of today, stepping in to talk to these wonderful students we have here in front of us. So we'll start off the same way we started off with Mr. Brooks. Our 5 values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. Which one of those stands out above the others?
I'm a little different than Derrick. Of course, I respect Derrick quite a bit. We're both linebackers. We can't disagree.
That's right.
But commitment is my big thing. You got to be committed to whatever you do. First of all, you make the commitment to your God, or whoever faith you are. Then you make a commitment to your family and friends. And then you got to make the biggest one of all. You got to make a commitment to yourself, that you're going to do what you know is right as well as you can for as long as you can. And that's the big thing. And commitment is, a sincere commitment is awesome. That's what you got to stick with.
All right, we know some students, like I said earlier, got some question cards this morning. So go ahead and step up to the microphone, state your name, what school you go to, and ask your question here for Mr. Robinson.
I'm Haley. I go to Lisbon David Anderson, and my question is, who influenced you the most in your life, and how or why did they do it?
Biggest influence in your life? Who was it and why?
I'll tell you, the biggest influence in my life was really my mother and father. My father died my freshman year in high school, and prior to that, I was hanging around with a real bad kid. He ended up committing murder and whatnot, but he was my best buddy. And my father got sick, and my father actually left one of my high school games as a freshman, went to the hospital, and never got out. And our school was a little different. I'll try to shorten this. Our school was a little different. Freshmen couldn't play on the varsity ball, but I was fairly good, and they wanted me to play. But the only way I could play was after the freshman season was over. Then you're technically a sophomore. So for Thanksgiving Day, the big Thanksgiving Day game, I played in the Thanksgiving Day game as a freshman, the varsity game, just a few plays next to my brothers, as a matter of fact. And after the game, I went by to see my father in the hospital. And my father asked me, he says, Dave, he says, what are you going to do now that football season's over? I said, well, they've been asking me about coming for the basketball team. He said, I wish you would, because your mother worries about you hanging around with, this guy's name was Billy. And she says, if you're practicing, she knows where you are all the time. So I wish you would consider basketball. I said, I'll let him know on Monday. And he said, okay. And we talked about other things too. Anyway, I went to school that day, and the coaches asked me if I was coming for basketball team. At 11 o'clock, they called me off and told me my father had passed away. So that was the last piece of advice my father gave me. I was a daddy's boy. I did anything my father wanted. I did everything for the man. I loved him with all my heart. And he said that. So what I did, I went up for basketball. And when basketball season was over, and I played baseball, which was my love at that time. And then during the baseball season, I'd shown some excellence in the intramural track meet the school has. So I ran track. And to make a long story short, my last 3 years in college, in high school, I played 4 sports a year, got 12 letters. Football, basketball, baseball, and track. I never, in 3 seasons, came home directly after school more than 5 or 6 times in 3 years combined. What it did more than anything else in my life, it severed the relationship between myself and Billy. And he went on to do some terrible things in life, and I went on to play pro football and dedicate myself to the game and everything else. And that's, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but basically my biggest influence is my father. And one last thing to tell you about my father. My father never asked me to do anything. He asked me one time in freshman year, he said, you're going to go against this guy named Vincent Cream. He's a running back. He said, I want you to take him out for me. So I said, I was going to do that anyway, Dad. But he said, okay. So anyway, it's a freshman game, maybe 300 people. And Vincent came running sweep my way, and I caught him on the rise, slammed him to the ground, and hit the ground with a moan. And about 299 people said, ooh. And I heard one guy say, yeah. That's my dad. He told me later that he had been a boxer, because that was the only way for an African American to get into sports in the 20s. This is 1920s we're talking about. And he was in a gym, and they were going to try to groom somebody to be a heavyweight champion for the gym. And he got into a box-off, and he got to the finals. And in the finals, this guy, Arnold Cream, knocked him out of the ring, which is technically a knockout. But he says he was very proud of the fact he just got knocked out of the ring. And so he wanted me to get revenge, but take it out Vincent Cream, the kid's son. So I was real proud. For anybody that doesn't understand, Arnold Cream changed his name to Jersey Joe Walcott and was eventually the heavyweight champion of the world. And that's my dad had fought the heavyweight champion of the world, and he says he had him beat till he got knocked out of the ring. And I said, my dad was that close to being heavyweight champion of the world, I can be the world champion of something. And that was one of the things that kept me going in football to the Super Bowl, which wasn't around when I was played, by the way. Or in baseball, I was going to say baseball, get to the World Series, which I never got that far. And that was just it. My dad was a big inspiration. And I'm not one that flaunts his religion in front of people. I have a religious core from my mother, but every game, I always pray to my father. And I still think about it. He was a great man.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. You mentioned in high school you played basketball, baseball, and track.
Right.
I'm sure we have a bunch of athletes in here who play more than one sport.
Yeah.
Do you think playing all those different sports helped you become a Hall of Famer or helped your football skill all around?
Oh, yes, because the difference, I'll tell you, when I played outfield in baseball, and anybody that plays baseball knows that when the bat hits the ball, and the ball leaves the bat, you got to know where that ball's going right now, and you got to go there. If you sit there and wait, and say, oh, it's going over here, and then you start running, it's too late, it's going to be a hit. You got to be able to, you learn that sense. In football, when I was there, I got the feeling that when the quarterback got back, when the ball left the quarterback's hands, I knew if it was going to go to my flat, try to go over my head, the other side of the field, or where, and I'd go to the ball. And that was just something I learned from baseball. I was just able to read it and go to it. In basketball, you know, there's a lot of shots of time the ball's passed where a guy just throws it to you. You got to have great peripheral vision to be a good basketball player. And you got to have a great peripheral vision if you're a linebacker. I know Derrick must have had it also. Otherwise, somebody's going to be hitting you. All the time, you got to see it coming. I can sit here like this, I can still see you. And that's my, and I can,
that worries me a little bit.
And my peripheral vision isn't as good as it used to be. But if I saw you move, I'd turn to give you the shot.
Well, I'm not going to move.
And see. No, but anyway, you draw something from every sport. And every sport, you hone a different part of your game. And you put it all together, and the composite is what makes a great football player and a good person.
All right. I'll go ahead to our next question. State your name, what school you go to, and then ask your question.
My name's Zach, and I go to Tri-Valley. And my question says, how did you stay motivated to improve even with all the success you had?
Well, I got a lot of that motivation came to me from my coach, Vince Lombardi, in Green. Let's tell you a little bit. I had a great high school coach, goes without saying. He was a super high school coach. And I left high school and I went to Penn State. I played for Joe Paterno and Rip Engel. Rip Engel was the head coach. And they were great coaches, much better. So I went to Green Bay. I expected the coaching to be better. And at Vince Lombardi, and sure enough, he was better than any coach I'd seen before. Not till I left Vince that I realized how great he was. He was the greatest coach of all time. He really was. And he really inspired me to do everything. He was the greatest inspiration I had. And he was just the man. From Vince Lombardi, I got everything. I can't say how much I enjoy the man. His integrity and his honesty and his devoted to the game and the love of the game. And he never asked us to do anything that he hadn't done himself or wouldn't do himself. Because he was a guard. He was one of the 7 blocks of granite in Fordham, one of the greatest lines in the history of football. So he was a great football player and a great coach.
All right, thank you for your question. Now, I mentioned at the beginning, we are getting some questions fed in from our social media. If you're watching on Facebook Live, go ahead and shoot a comment in there, and we'll get your question into the program. But this one actually comes from Twitter. It says, today is Jackie Robinson Day.
Right.
What kind of challenges did you face as an African-American football player growing up?
As growing up, growing up was no problem. I grew up in New Jersey, and I had no problems at all. But I got to Penn State, and I had a lot of problems when I went south to play in the Southern. At that time, I graduated in '63 from Penn State, so I was in Penn State in the early '60s. I grew up in the '50s and '40s and the '50s when I was a young boy, and I understand what Jim Crow was all about. I know I know it was like in the prejudiced South, and so I had a lot of things that came at me, and all these things I kept knowing that. I think about Jackie Robinson himself. In fact, you live in New Jersey, about 100 miles, maybe about 50 to 90 miles from New York City, where Brooklyn, where Jackie Robinson played. Your name is Robinson. You're an African American. You got a lot of pressure on you, man. and Jackie was one of my heroes. But that's why I said I always wanted to be a baseball player, not a football player. Right? And but it was just a different type of life. I had a lot of problems. And when I came to Green Bay, I played offense and defense both in. You only had one platoon football when I played. There wasn't 2 teams, just one team. You played all the time. And I got there, and I went to the All-Star game. They used to have a college All-Star game where you played the pros. The champions that year were the Green Bay Packers, so we're playing against the Packers. But I went to the All-Star game, and the first week, they had me playing defensive end. And then they moved me to offensive tight end. And then they moved me again to linebacker, where I sat in and leveled out. When I got to Green Bay, Vince called me in his office and said, Dave, he says, I know you wonder why we moved you around. We wanted to see how you could play the different positions in case we need you there. He said, we always wanted to play, the coach Phil Bankston, defensive coordinator, wants you to be a linebacker. But you understand that our goal today is, one, they'd won the championship in 61 and 62, this is 63. He said, we're trying to be the first team ever to win 3 consecutive world championships. And that's got to be our single most goal for the whole team. And we don't need any disruptions, anything that's going to interfere with that. So you will be the first starting African-American in the National Football League at linebacker. And he said, I don't want you to go around and talk about, we don't want to have any interruption with the team. And he said, if anybody asks you about it, you tell them to come see me. And I walked out of Vince's office and walked right into a reporter. He said, hey, Dave, what's it like to be the first black linebacker in the National Football League? And I said, I don't know, ask Vince. Never got a word in the paper. Vince he squashed it. We didn't win either. But that's another story. But that's how it was. It was not about, I learned something like Derrick was saying, I learned that individual glory is great, to go around waving the flag, saying I'm the first black linebacker. But I gave all up for the fact I wanted the team success is even more important. Success of the team. Same thing, you folks, all you can have good grades, and I had good grades in high school and that, but the big thing is, what have you done for your school? What have you done for your neighbors? What have you done for your best friends? And your commitment and what you do for others is great. Man is a social animal. Social being the fact that he lives in society, he lives together. That's why you have doctors, you have lawyers, you have plumbers, you have everybody is a specialty. And everybody can contribute to the glue that holds that society together. And you're not, if you live in a downtrodden place and you don't do anything to improve it, then you're laying your fellow man down. You got to do it. You got to get your education. You got to do whatever you can to take care of people next door. People, I'm not talking about your cousins and your family. I'm talking about the stranger who lives next door, and that's it. You know, I could tell you some stories about that too, but I want to go on and on. But anyway, Jackie Robinson Day is just a great day, and I tell you, I had all kinds of things. I was the first African American to play in the Gator Bowl, and we played against Georgia Tech, and they were favored to beat us, and they'd only had like 23 points scored on them all year, and we scored 23 on them and beat them, of course. But during that game, I didn't start the game. They didn't want me to start the game, and I found out later they sent it on my mail, and they gave me my mail after the game, and the guy said, I am a veteran, and I was rated excellent with my rifle. I'm taking my gun to the stadium, and if you introduce Dave Robinson and he runs on the field, I'm going to shoot him on the 50-yard line on national TV. And they said something about take that black bear back to Penn State with you. Well, what made me mad? Because I hate bears. I don't call it a bear. But anyway, so I didn't start. The other kids started, and then I played I came in the second series. And I'm standing there, and the guy comes down, like I seen him in and came, and I got a good shot on him, and he went down. And I stepped back, balled my fist, I'm ready to fight. And he said, hey, nice hit. Patted me in the back and walked away. A little later, a guy comes the other way, and I popped him. He said, hey, way to go. And I said, these guys from Georgia Tech are all right. And seriously, I was down there for 10 days in Florida. It's in 1961. And I never felt at ease for 10 days. Always had pressure on me. It's insane. I'll tell you a story about that later. But anyway, except for the 3 hours on that football field, I felt at home. Football is my home. These guys were nice and everything else. I found out later because Bill Curry, who was the center on that team, we drafted him in '64. He came and said, before the game, Coach Bobby Dodd had told them, you guys have probably never played with a black ball player before, nor against one. It's going to happen today. He said, I want you guys to act like gentlemen from Georgia Tech. He said, remember, no matter what, you just be a gentleman. And they were great. It taught me a big lesson in life. If they have a problem, don't necessarily go to the problem to fix it. It comes down from the top. When I was working in the beer business, and I used to go into different wholesaleships to try and correct them. And if I saw a truck, the driver's truck was dirty, I didn't say it was a driver problem. It was a wholesaler problem. Not even the middle management, nor the manager. It was the top. If he's the one that sets the rules. Bobby Dodd told them to act like gentlemen, and it was the best enjoyment I had, pleasure I had playing a game in the South. and the whole time I was in college. So I do believe that we can make a difference. If we're the leaders, as Derrick said, and we're at the top, we set the mold. We turn people, we can have people below us be positive or negative. And we try to make them positive.
All right, we're going to have our next question. Go ahead and step up to the microphone, state your name, what school you go to, and then ask your question.
Hi, I'm Mia, and I go to Barberton High School. And my question is, what adversities did you face during your playing days?
Oh, every Sunday. Well, number one, I had some injuries, of course, and it's almost, you almost have to ask me what year, because I came in and I came in as a rookie, like I said, and playing linebacker, and the guy who played the position I wanted had been all pro, and I'm going to try to take the job away from him. That's an adversity. But then I was running down the kickoff. I used to kick off, and Vince told me, he said, since you're the kicker, I was a straight-on kicker. I didn't kick soccer style. I kicked straight on. You have a running start. He said, you used to be the first one in the wedge. So I go down into the wedge, and somebody hit me and got my knee tore up and had to have my cartilage removed. And it was an injury that could have been career ending. And I went home. I managed to limp through the season, and I got operated on January the 1st and went home, and I had to build my knee up, and I built it up. And what happened? The guy I told you about that was all pro. He had a bad knee also. And he brought me into Green Bay, and I came in the morning like 10 o'clock, and they checked my knee, how strong it was from the operation in May. I went home, they brought him in around 1 o'clock on May and checked his knee, and at 3 o'clock he was traded to the Rams. And that's what I knew. I said, oh. The only thing that kept me in Green Bay was that bad, but that my knee was stronger than his knee. And that was it. And then that was 765. I played 10 more years in that knee after I was hurt. In 1970, I tore my Achilles tendon. And that was definitely considered a career ender. There had been two great football players, and one of my heroes, Rosie Greer, who was a Penn Stater also, had torn his, and he had to retire after tearing his Achilles tendon. So I thought that might be the end of my career. And I went back, and I followed the doctor's orders and went to my own regiment. It was awful hard, I tell you, because I don't want to get into technical, but it's a real tough injury to come back from, to get back to normal. I played 5 more years on a torn Achilles. So, there's a lot of adversity. And I can, like I said, the Packers won 61 and 62. 63 is going to be the year. And then we didn't win. And it's a pressure on me. I thought maybe I'm the jinx. In 64, we didn't win again. Then we won in 65, and that was against the Cleveland Browns, the last game before the Super Bowl started. Then we won Super Bowls 1 and 2. And I felt that I had been the jinx that broke this, and I had to make sure I helped the team in the string to win 3 world championships. And it was one of my big games was the championship in 1966 in Dallas, the NFL championship, to lead the Super Bowl 1. But that's another, we can talk about that later. But there's so much pressure, so much adversities. Always things go bad, you got to make them better.
So you played majority of your career. You did play a few years for the Redskins. But you played a majority of your career in Green Bay, frozen tundra. And now we all sitting in this room think we've seen some cold days. Can you talk a little bit about the ice ball? How cold was it?
Well,
and do you remember anything special about that?
I remember everything about it. In fact, I feel like I just thawed out last week. But I got up in the morning. We stayed at home. Green Bay is a small town. When I got there, there was only 60,000 people in the city. And you could put the whole town inside of the stadium at Penn State. So there wasn't enough hotels, so I stayed in the hotel the night before the game. We stayed at home. And then my wife and I had a discussion about the way she cooked my steak pre-game meal. And so we solved it very simply. I cooked my own meal. And I was in the kitchen cooking my meal, and she called me and said, Dave, it's 20 degrees below zero out there today. I said, no. It had been 10 above the day before, and every day in Green Bay it would be 10 above and drop down to 10 below at night. I said, you mean 20 above? He said, no. It was 20 below zero. And I got and the car won't start. And I get we had to we took a called a cab to take our children to the babysitter. It's just one thing after the other. And you get to the game, and it's a game I've been quoted saying, I believe, if the commissioner had been at our game, he would have called that game off. We would not have played that game because it was that kickoff, which the official temperature, I think, was 13 below zero with a wind blowing. At halftime, it had dropped to 18 below zero. And when the game ended, it was 22 below zero with chill factors. It ranged between minus 57 and minus 69 degrees. It was bitter cold. And we were asked to perform, and we did. It was this fight, and there's so many stories going about that game I could tell you about. One thing was that Vince said he didn't want any receivers, any running backs or linebackers to wear gloves. We didn't have the good gloves they have today, the kind of sticky with they're stickified. We had just regular old cotton garden gloves. And so everybody's complaining about not wearing gloves. And I told our trainer, I said, Dominic, I said, give me a pair of brown gloves. He won't know the difference. So I put the brown gloves on. And people think I'm lying, but a guy recently, the last 6 months, sent me a picture of the game, and me in the game, and you can see I got the gloves on. And it was something, I put them on, and his first down, I had the gloves on, because I thought it was going to be a run. And if it turned into a pass, I real quick pull them off and throw them on the ground, because I wanted Vince to see me out there knocking down the pass with no gloves on. And then it was a funny game, but it was just, that was the coldest there ever was. And that was the first day of a cold wave coming in, which got worse. And we had that Wednesday, before going to the Super Bowl, we had practice in Green Bay. And the defense always faces the wind, so the offense can throw with the wind. And our defensive coach was sitting there behind us watching as the teams came in. He had little pillars of salt, where the wind made his eyes tear up, then it froze. And little pillars of salt right in his eyes, contacted his eyelids together. We had a Chuck Mercine, a fullback. His contacts froze to his eye after that day. What we call that a cup and a half day. Because Vince used to drink hot coffee during practice when it was real cold. And he drank the coffee, and when his coffee froze in the cup, practice was over. So that was a cup and a half day, that was. But a couple guys got frostbite, and in fact, we were going to spend our whole 2 weeks before the Super Bowl practicing in Green Bay. Well, one we came in, Vince wanted to do some things in secret. We came in off the field from practice that day, and he called, and that afternoon we caught a plane to Fort Lauderdale. And went down to Fort Lauderdale.
A little warmer.
A lot warmer. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it was bitter cold. You can't imagine how cold it was, you know. It's just bitter. And then after the game, I had to drive to Jersey.
In the cold.
Yeah. In the cold. Yeah.
All right, we're going to have our next student go ahead up to the microphone. State your name, what school you go to, and then ask your question.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I go to Malvern.
Right,
and my question says, how did you take the lessons you learned from playing football and apply them to your own life?
Oh, man, there's so many of them you learn. The one thing I remember I felt that I was a good football player. But in order to become a great football player, I had to interrelate with Willie Davis to my inside and Herb Adderley to my outside. The three of us had that area, that left side to take care of. Now, get down to it, in football, when I played, all the quarterbacks called their own plays. Most of the quarterbacks in the league were right-handed, like 99% almost. So they called plays to the right all the time. So on defense, we always bet you had to stack up your left side. And I played on the left side, and we knew going in we were going to get a lot of the action over there. And they were going to throw away and run away. And so we knew that we couldn't exist unless we worked together. Willie Davis and I got a system where if the tight end tried to go down to block on him, I would crush the tight end and keep him from coming down. Try my best to drive him back into the tackle's way, because if the tight end goes down, the tackle's going to fold around and get me. I try to knock him off with the tight end, but either way, I had to free up Willie, and then Willie could go and stop the plays outside. My play was the line holes are numbered. Tight ends here, the inside hole is called a 7-hole, outside hole is the 9-hole. I have the 9-hole, Willie has the 7-hole. If that end went down, I had to set 7-hole now, and Willie came around me and took the 9-hole. When they come wide, the fourth man is Herb Adderley. Herb would tell me, he said, Dave, anybody comes out here, I can handle them, but I can't handle the guards. If I got free and the guard is pulling, I had to take the guard out, take him out of the play completely, or else the guard would blow Herb away and they get a long gainer. So I learned that teamwork and interdependency of myself on these other guys. It made us all, for the betterment of the team, for the sake of the total, the whole. You remember, you're all part of something, be it a classroom, be it a team, be it a school, be it a society, be it your town or your country or state. You're a part of it. And you got to do your part and hold your head up and do the best you can to make the whole item better and more performing. And I learned that, and that's a good question now.
All right, go ahead. We'll have our next question. Go ahead, step up to the microphone. State your name, what school you go to, and then ask your question.
Hi, my name is that's loud. My name is Santiago Fox. I'm from Barberton High School, and my question is, what is the biggest change that you've noticed from your time in the NFL compared to today?
The pay. You pay a lot more. They pay a lot more. The guy that plays my position now, he makes more in one game than I made in 10 years collectively. And so my base salary. But I have more when you add in championship money. No. The league has done everything it can to make it more, to make it safer than it was before, and trying to correct things. I think the one big thing that's got to be done that bothers me about football is the deterioration of the ability to tackle. The basic principles of tackles I was taught all my life are no longer there. I was taught that a person's center of gravity, any people in science know what I'm talking about, the center of gravity of the human body is somewhere around the waist. That's the center of gravity. You can move a person's center of gravity that much, just a couple inches, he's got to fall down. His center of gravity is what keeps his balance. So there's no sense in hitting a guy up high because he rocks and his center of gravity stays where it is. You got to hit him low. And then somewhere along the line, somebody got the idea is the more common theory that I hear people joke about it, you kill the head, the body dies. So they're hitting the guy in the head and all that. It's no sense in hitting the head. All it's going to do is going to cause injuries and whatnot. To make a good, clean tackle, you hit a guy right in his center of gravity, you hit, take him down, and the guy goes down. There's no such thing when I played as yards after contact. My coach, Vince Lombardi, was real stickler, said, no man should make more than 2 yards after you make contact with him. And he should only make 2 yards if he's 6 feet tall, because he'll fall 2 yards. And that's it. And now you see guys get hit, because when they hit guys up high, they rock and get up and keep on running. If the tackling, I think the tackling is going to come back, because I think the more and more people think like I do, we're trying to get these young guys to tackle now with the shoulders. I don't know how they're going to do it, because they stopped wearing decent shoulder pads now. They like sumo wrestlers, got these little lightweight pads, and they're pushing and shoving, and But if they start tackling with the shoulders into the midsection and wrapping behind the legs and taking guys down, then their head is way down here, not up here where you get this helmet-to-helmet collisions. I played 4 years in high school and 4 years in college. I like to say 13 years. I went through 13 pre-seasons one night, but the league says 12 years, so I'll say 4, 4, and 12, 20 years. 20 years of football, or 21. And I bet I never had more than 5 helmet-to-helmet collisions. I got concussions, but it came from guys hitting me in the head with a knee or hitting the ground hard or something, but not from a helmet-to-helmet. When you go helmet-to-helmet, you may stick the guy you hit, but you're hurting yourself also. And on that thing, when I know, I say one thing, if you know that the brain floats inside and it moves around, and when you get hit, the brain sloshes from one side to the other, that's what causes concussion. No amount of padding in the world on the outside will stop that brain from slopping around inside. That new technical helmets that are so effective is a helmet maker's dream. He can charge now $300 a helmet instead of the $30 he did when I was playing. But as long as that brain's floating in there, you're going to have concussions if you go helmet to helmet hit it. So that's I may have wandered off on a little tangent, but I hope I answered your question, man.
All right, we'll go ahead and take another question here from the back. Go ahead and step up to the microphone, state your name, what school you go to, and go ahead and
I'm
ask
Logan
your question.
Bell, and I go to Lisbon High School.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I see that.
Was there another player that you ever tried to model your game after?
What's that again now?
Was there another player you ever tried to model your game after?
Yes and no. I try to model my game after composite of players. I like the way the hitting ability of Reed's guy who just recently died last Friday, Forrest Gregg, the way he hit, how aggressive he was. Willie Davis, the guy that played next to me, most intelligent ball player I ever played with. And I played with all the greats. I played, even Deacon Jones and all those guys I played linebacker with them. Willie Davis was the smartest one. He's just so intelligent. I tried to take his intelligence. Willie Wood, small guy. Willie Wood, my rookie year, impressed me. He told me what I was doing on defense. I said, how do you know? He said, I know what every man on the defense does on every defense, his assignment. I know all 11 assignments, every defense, he says. That's the only way I know who can help, when I can help, who's going to need my help. And I stepped back and said, if he can do it, I can do it. I went back home and started studying the plays. And by the end of the week, I too could outline every defense, every man's what every man did. And knowing that, I knew who needed my help, who I had to help, and I knew if I needed help, who was going to give it to me. And so I got that from Willie Wood. Herb Addy was the best defensive back I ever saw in my life. Take it back. I forgot about Night Train Lane. Night Train Lane may have been best, but Herb was right there with Night Train Lane. And Herb, as soon as I saw the action coming my way and the guy going out, I would immediately look outside and see if the flanker or the split end, who was out that way, was coming in. He was coming in, I came out and covered the inside for him. Herb would lay off him, and for the first 10 yards, if they threw the ball, I had to make sure the quarterback threw it over my head. After 10 yards, Herb linked down on him. As a result, Herb went to the 1965 season, the entire season, and never had a touchdown pass thrown on him the whole season. And that's because of the way we worked. And I learned that teamwork with Herb. And then, of course, I had Ray Nishkam inside, very intense guy. And I got the intensity from Ray. So then I put them all together, and now you're starting to put piece to piece, you're starting to come up with a Dave Robinson. I don't know what you do, but in your life, you're going to draw something from your parents, draw something from your friends, draw something from your teachers and administrators, something from your school. You draw things from all over, and that's what makes a person. And that's why I can't say any one person influenced me. It was a number of people in football.
You went through your career. You mentioned some of the highs and the lows throughout your career. Ultimately, you ended up here in Canton, your second home. When you're enshrined, for those of you that don't know, when you're enshrined here in the Hall of Fame, you get 3 iconic pieces. You get a bronze bust, Kay Jeweller's Ring of Excellence, and then this Haggard gold jacket that Mr. Robinson has on. All these things are great to have, it signifies you're a Hall of Famer. But what has kind of been, the coolest thing, or one of the things that stands out that you've got to be a part of since being a Hall of Famer?
It's hard to say. I tell you, the one thing that stands out to me as being a Hall of Famer, just the fact that you are a Hall of Famer. The week before I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I go to this grocery store, the same store I go to all the time, and they spoke to me. They know I was a football player, no problem. But the minute I got inducted to the Hall of Fame, I went back to the same grocery store, and the lady in the bakery department came out and had to come see you and say hello to you. Hall of Fame it's like a weight you carry, and also when you wear this jacket, you attract the crowd. I can go anywhere in the country, and I can go in with jeans and a T-shirt and then just another guy. But you walk in with that jacket on, no matter what you got on, you're a Hall of Famer, and everybody looks at you as a Hall of Famer. And you got a responsibility because you are a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Fame is not just guys who play great football. They're great people who play football in a great sport, and you got to live up to it. The pressure's on you. No longer can if I do something stupid, they say, that Dave Robinson, he did a dumb thing. Now they say, that Hall of Famer acted stupidly. The Hall of Fame is a great responsibility and a great honor, and I tell you, it opens doors for you. Now, I always say when I was working and I was playing ball, we worked in the off season, by the way. We didn't make that much money. And once we were world champions, I could go into a place, and being a world champion for Green Bay Packer, I got instant access to the top men, the president of the company, et cetera, et cetera. But you just got that one introduction. You had to be ready, prepared to prove yourself at that point, or you would never get back in that man's office again. And that's what the Hall of Fame does. It gives you opens a lot of doors for you, and you walk in them. But you owe it to the Hall of Fame and be well prepared when you walk through that door to represent what the Hall of Fame means. Like they say on that wall over there, the Hall of Fame is more. It's more than just another group. It's a whole nother life for you. And I owe the 300 and some guys who are in the Hall of Fame, I owe all of them. I owe all of them. And I know I speak for all of them. When I go someplace, I represent all of them. And it's a great burden to carry, but it's a great one to have, too. I can't say enough about the Hall of Fame, what it means to you. It's everybody says it's like the only team you can't get cut from, can't be traded from. And they all said, you can't even die and leave the Hall of Fame. You're a Hall of Famer forever. And everybody in the Hall of Fame is equal. That's what I like about the Hall of Fame the most. There's nobody. You can't pick an all Hall of Fame team. Like who's the best quarterback in the Hall of Fame, the best tackle linebacker. Everyone in the Hall of Fame got here the same way. Everybody's equal. Now, my leave here, it might be people argue whether I was a better linebacker or Derrick Brooks is a better linebacker. But I don't look at it that way. Derrick and I are equal. We're both Hall of Famers. Neither one of us can go any higher, and we're both at the top of our career. And that's how the Hall of Fame is. Hall of Fame is a great humbling experience. I can't say enough about the Hall of Fame.
All right, we got to have time for one more here, and we'll wrap up with this same way we wrapped up with your fellow linebacker, okay. Mr. Brooks. If you could leave these students here today in front of us with one piece of advice for them to take away after they get back to school, they get home, what is that one piece of advice you want to leave with everybody here today?
Well, one thing Derrick said is right, and about education. You know, I went to Penn State, played football. And everybody says, why'd you go to Penn State? Because it's a great football school. No. My father, as I told you about, the guy I loved, one of the most men in the world, he had 8 children. And the first 5, none went to college. And my brother, older brother me, he was the best football player in the family. And he wanted to go to college bad. And in 1949, when he got out of high school, it was common practice that if you're African American, in the South, you couldn't go to any schools. They're all segregated, except for the traditional black colleges. In the North, the way you went to college was you had to pay the first semester. And then you went to spring training, spring practice. And if you were good enough, they would award you a 3.5-year scholarship. And my father couldn't afford to send my brother to college, and he never went. And my father always said that's what hurt him the most. And he vowed that the last 3, my sister, my other brother, and I, were going to get a college education. And my sister did, and my sister was a brilliant girl. She graduated from high school at 16. She was brilliant. Still is, by the way. She's my only sibling left. My brother went to a Maryland State, which is called Maryland Eastern Shore now, which was a small school, and we had to pay part of his tuition, and broke the family because my father was gone and he died. And my mother had a hard time. And I was determined to get a scholarship. I wanted to play baseball, and baseball didn't have college scholarships. So I kind of stretched out. I was too short to win a scholarship in basketball, and I know I could maybe win one in football. And I wanted to get there because I didn't want to make a lot of money in football, which I didn't. But I wanted to get an education. I wanted to go to college. And I chose Penn State for one reason only. I wanted to be an engineer. And Penn State was ranked number 3 in the nation, the engineering and architectural school, behind MIT and California Polytech. I went to school not to play football, but to get my education. And I never planned on playing football. Now, my wife, on the other hand, I met my wife in high school. I was dating her then, and she kept saying, "You gotta get your degree so we can get a job and get married." That's all she wanted. But I went there for one reason: to get my education. And in my junior year, my sophomore year, I played against Mike Dicker, and I had a good game against him, fairly good game. And in my junior year, Mike Dicker was Rookie of the Year. And when he was Rookie of the Year, I said, if that's the best they got, I can play with the pros. And that's when, so that after the end of my season, my junior year, first time you considered going into pro football. It was never a goal. Somebody said, didn't you want to go to be in the Hall of Fame? There wasn't a Hall of Fame. My rookie year was 63, the year the Hall of Fame started. So there wasn't a Hall of Fame to look forward to. And the pay wasn't that great. You had to work during the off season. But I wanted to get that paper. And in order to get it, I had to go to college. I was offered a job, I was offered a contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. I went to the Phillies in in the Milwaukee Braves training camp. It wasn't a training camp. It was a company pour you in and look you over, and then they offer you a contract. And I told my mother, I got this contract. Because she was working hard, and I said, I can take this, play baseball, and start getting you money right now. She told me, she said, no, your father wants you to get that scholarship, to get that diploma. That's why I didn't play baseball. And I went and played football. And I was just suited to football. I was a rough, tough kid, and then somebody came to me and said, Dave, we're going to pay you to hit people. I said, what? They're going to pay me to hit people? I said, yeah. And the harder you hit them, the more you get. I said, oh, man, this is dream come true. So I became a football player. No, that's not really true. I just did it. I did it because I wanted to get that. I wanted to get the job. I got the job, and I graduated from college and got married all right, boom, boom, boom. That was it.
All right, I think with that, it's no better way to end it. We're going to wrap up this installment of our Heart of a Hall of Famer series featuring Hall of Fame inductee, class of 2013 member Dave Robinson. Dave, thanks again for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Can I go down there?
All right, again, thank you guys for coming today. Thanks you guys for tuning in. For those of you that are touring, have fun your rest of the day. Thanks for coming to the Hall of Fame, and we'll hopefully see you guys later. Appreciate it, guys.